Welcome to my channel. I never imagined that a simple moment could change the way I saw someone, but looking back now, I realize that night was the beginning of something I wasn't ready for. My name is Maya, and for the past 2 years, I've shared an apartment with my housemate Jordan when we first moved in together. It was purely out of convenience, splitting rent, sharing responsibilities, and respecting each other's space. We had our own routines, our own schedules, and although we got along well, we weren't particular. Close, Jordan was the type of guy that everyone naturally liked. He was easygoing, always calm and had a way of making people feel at ease. He was funny in a quiet, understated way and carried himself with a confidence that wasn't arrogant but rather effortless. We had a good dynamic one that felt familiar and comfortable, but it was never anything more than that. At least that's what I thought. One evening after an exhausting day at work, I walked into the apartment. Barely able to keep my eyes open, my heels were killing me, and all I wanted to do was throw myself onto the couch and stay there for the rest of the night. As I made my way to the kitchen, I heard the sound of water running from the bathroom. A moment later, Jordan stepped out, fresh from the shower, wearing nothing but sweatpants and a towel draped over his shoulders. His hair was still damp droplets of water clinging to his cologne rough day. He asked, leaning against the doorway as he dried his hair. "You have no idea." I groaned, kicking off my shoes, a smirk. "Want a drink?" I hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Actually, yeah, I do." He poured me a glass of wine and handed it over his fingers, brushing against mine in the process. It was a small, fleeting touch, but something about it sent an unexpected warmth through me. I shrugged it off. We were housemates, friends even. There was nothing unusual about unwinding together after a long day, or at least that's what I told myself over the next few days. I started noticing things I hadn't. Before, the way Jordan would linger in the kitchen just a little longer whenever I was there, the way his eyes would follow me as I moved around the apartment, the way his voice softened whenever we spoke. Like he was saying something meant only for me. I caught myself watching him too, paying attention to the way he stretched in the morning, the way he absent-mindedly ran a hand through his hair when he was focused on something, the way his smile lingered just a second longer than necessary one night. As I sat at the dining table working on my laptop, Jordan walked in, stretching his arms above his head. "You're still up?" He asked, his voice low and lazy. "Yeah," I sighed, rubbing my temples. "Work's been crazy." He leaned against the counter, watching me. "You know, you push yourself too hard." Smirk, says the guy who wakes up at 6 a.m. to work out every morning. He chuckled, sitting down across from me. "Touché, but still, you should take a break." There was something about the way he said it. His voice softer, his expression unreadable. I hesitated before closing my laptop. "Maybe you're right for a moment." Neither of us moved. The air felt different. Heavier. Then before I could process what was happening, he reached forward and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "You're always in your own world." "Maya," he murmured, "sometimes I wonder if you ever slow down enough to notice what's right in front of you." I should have said something. I should have laughed it off, teased him, anything, but I didn't. Instead, I sat there, my heart pounding, my pulse thrumming in my ears. The tension didn't go away, if anything. It grew stronger with every passing day. One evening, a storm rolled in, shaking the apartment with heavy rain and distant thunder. I was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, watching a movie when Jordan sat down beside me, closer than usual. "Mind if I join?" he asked, shrug. "Go ahead." We sat in silence for a while, the only sound coming from the TV and the rain against the windows. But I wasn't focused on the movie anymore. I could feel the warmth of his body next to mine, the subtle shift in his breathing. Then, without warning, the power flickered off, leaving us in complete darkness. "Well, that's convenient." Jordan muttered, his voice laced with amusement. I laughed nervously. "Guess we're stuck like this for a while." He turned toward me, barely visible in the dim light. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, but my voice came out quieter than I expected. I could feel him watching me, could hear the steady rise and fall of his breathing. Then finally he said, "Maya, have you ever thought about what it would be like if things were different between us?" I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. Before I could answer, a loud clap of thunder shook the apartment, making me jump without thinking. I grabbed his arm and suddenly we were closer than ever for a long moment. Neither of us spoke. Then slowly Jordan reached up his fingers, grawing my cheek. Maya, his voice was barely a whisper. I could have pulled away, I could have laughed it off, changed the subject, pretended like none of this was happening, but I didn't, because deep down I knew everything had already changed. The next morning, the apartment felt different. I woke up before Jordan sitting by the window with a cup of coffee, watching the rain-soaked city below. My thoughts were racing, my emotions tangled in ways I couldn't quite untangle when he finally woke up and stepped into the kitchen. He hesitated for a moment before offering me a small smile. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," I replied, my fingers tightening around my mug for a second. I wondered if we would pretend like nothing had happened. But then, as he walked past me, he let his hand linger against mine just for a moment, and I knew there was no going back. Because sometimes the most unexpected moments are the ones that change everything.